There's still plenty of time.
Well, with our travel to come meet you, I have I have not been around. I do not know what preparations have so far been made. If none, we must get to work quickly. Looks over to his uncle, who's been back for a few days, might know more.
Dasm looks over again to Hale and says, "We have slightly more problems than that, I'm afraid."
We shall nonetheless make it a priority in the future. We cannot stand as a house that are unable to receive guests. Such a thing would say poorly of our condition, which would reduce our credibility in the future. Mr. Gondes, I do not think it sounds like we're in a state where we need direct aid in this matter, however. That's the rest. What is the... There were many Dornishmen in the keep.
Dasm looks at him and says, "I'm afraid you are slightly mistaken about a few things, Halen, and your audacity is baffling to me. You have been gone for long, yes.
Too long.
And you return without saying anything about your plans to do so. You return in league with an enemy that has been ancient and bitter to our house and causes us much concern, and you sit down at this council table and just think that we now suddenly dance to your tune. That is not how this works. That is not how this works at all.
We don't legal heir to this house. My father's absent, which means that I stand as the steward house.
You have been absent, more absent than your father. You know nothing about this house. You know nothing of its duties, nothing. As a lord, as an heir, you have been completely absent. You are, in that regard,
information as
nothing.
It is. Cool.
Halen, do you realize the position you are putting us in by doing this? Do you realize the position you are putting this house in by bringing Peak here, by allying with him, and not having a lick of sense to consult with us first, just doing this on your own?
By all the laws in the 7 kingdoms, this is my right, and you have no right to deny it to me.
I have...
Should you persist with this, I shall call a court of law to be held in Highgarden, overseen by the Longthorn himself, and I'm sure he will see justice.
We have already been at Highgarden not long ago, and we won a resounding victory. You do not want to meet me in court, Halen. You want to work with me here, to get me to understand who you are and why you have returned now and what your ambitions are. That is what we require before this talk of food resources for votes.
Found says, seems things are thoroughly not under control, as I feared. He looks to Lanus.
Lanus looks over.
Brother?
As I did say, there would most certainly be suspicion, which I frown slightly. It's only fair that you were able to give your side of the story. For then maybe the trust will be back.
Elton says, I shall look forward to seeing my Lord Father and speaking to him of this. So what plans is it that you're curious about? My friendship with, he sort of nods to Gorman. Gorman. It is very simple. We grew up together. We have been together for the most half part of our lives. We have done much together. We've gone far.
Yet you never returned to us, even after you could. You made yourself unavailable to us. We searched. Found nothing.
I was bound by a vow. Such things are not easily broken.
What was the vow, if I may ask?
You may not. It is not something that I speak of. I bound myself to it, and I have completed the task that I was bound to do.
And that task is also shrouded in secrets.
It says, it would greatly shame someone whom I would not shame if I were to give such a secret away. I'm sure we all have things that should not be said, and that are best left with those who gave the secrets to you. I would not betray the trust of my friends or my family.
Yes, he looks at him for a second more and says, very well, a secret vow was taken, and you have been gone for, well, a very long time. Now you have returned.
Yes.
Clearly with the intention to rule the house, as it is your right, as you said.
That much is obvious.
And what is your plan for this house?
It says we shall... Our house has for some time been somewhat of a laughingstock around the marshes. I have seen it from a distance, though I do not know how bad it is in truth here. I imagine closer to respite, it would be less, as the threat is more real. Once, we stewarded for the Tyrells. I would see such a prosperity returned. How? Looks to Gorman, puts his hand on the table. Says, by turning our greatest enemy, historically speaking, into our greatest ally, such would turn the marshes on their head in regards to our position within them, and if possible, break up this monopoly that has threatened the Longthorn himself from acting justly. He looks to Gorman, who nods. As my grandfather has held on to power for 40 years, more. 3 keeps have been gathered up. Untraditionally, generally, the liege lord would ask for 1 or 2 of them to be given to other lords, bannermen. But due to the closeness of Dustinbury to Highgarden, I've lived there for most of my life. I'd almost see it. Such a thing would prove dangerous. I would perhaps suggest, my lords of Caladan, that it's time to open the chest and split the spoils.
Lark looks to Gorman and says, I presume that means there would be your banner house.
He frowns and says, this has very little to do with House of Caladan, in honesty, and all to do with my own.
He's saying of splitting his own house, making banners out of his own castles.
Says that could be the way of it. Do you have a map? Says I prepared.
There's a map on the table, probably.
Sort of, there's like little wooden figurines and stuff. Probably like a really mean one with like a bald spot and stuff for peak.
Yep. Really.
He'll sort of look at it, look around, and say, "There's only one peak, and that's the problem." And he sort of looks around for something to use. Found some sort of little grindstone, and puts it there.
We have like other figurines for like
little thing,
training.
Little flag or something. So he looks at the lords of the. Basically marks down the lords of the marshes. He says, my grandfather intends to become Lord of the Marshes. My father intends for him to become Lord of the Marshes, and, well, to be honest, I might one day inherit that title, which would looks around us. Well, but as it turns out, I have more immediate concerns. I do not intend to simply ride around with knightly orders fighting bandits in Northern Dawn for the rest of my good years. As my grandfather is living long, and he shows no signs of stopping, nor stepping down. But in his desire to become Lord of the Marshes, and he will, there has come upon us an opportunity that I think, as Halen, and by extension House Caladan, would be interested in. He sort of marks down the figurines. Lord Karen does not get to vote. His heir is not old enough. He cannot ride. Lord Dundarian, looks round, well known to be friends of Selmy. Peake thinks he will take that vote. The Swans are friends of the Trants, and the Trants are friends of the Peaks. So, Swan and Trant votes likely go to the Peaks. Grandfather will vote for himself. Selmy will vote for himself. Lord Tarley, well, as there are only 2 standing candidates, and he will not vote for my grandfather, his vote will likely go to the Selmies. House Ashford has been speaking with my grandfather. They will likely vote for him. The Fossaways are friends of the Peaks, while the Caladans, so looks to Halen, who says will vote for the Selmies. She looks down. All in all, comes out to 4 votes for the Selmies and 5 for the Peaks. If no consensus can be held, then a 3rd candidate must be raised and the vote recounted. As it stands, my grandfather would win. Oops. Lord Peasebury is so far undecided. If he was to be convinced, then there would be a forced rematch, which could give additional time. My grandfather would not like that. If the Lady of Appleton could somehow be married and convinced to vote for Selmy, in addition to the support of Lord Peasebury, then Lord Selmy would stand to gain the victory. He sort of moves the figurines to stand them. So it's clear that that would give sort of 6 votes to 5. Now I said that my grandfather will be Lord of the Marshes, because if this were to happen, he sort of takes the 2 new pieces and puts them on the board on Dustonbury and Whitegrove, 2 of the Peak castles. He would grant the castles, Whitegrove and Dustonbury, to me and my father, 1 each. We would thereby become Lords of the Marshes. We would have the requirements, and we would immediately get a vote. It says, thereby creating 2 new votes. He sticks them on the table, which would make it 8-7. However, in part of doing that, I would have become Lord of Dustonbury, no longer beholden to my grandfather in any particular way. And you can believe that I will not let Halen, the man who made this possible, stand alone in any situation. Halen nods slightly, looking at the map.
Well,
Leans back, seeming satisfied, as he sort of smiles.
Into awareness, empathy, that I think.
Out of character, he's kind
He
of got his
seems
fuck.
pretty satisfied with himself.
Yeah. Was there truth in the words? Did it seem?
It seems so. He seems to be way too proud of this plan for it to just be a fake.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes too much sense. I mean, Gormy can quite easily just play his son, maybe his grandson, like a puppet.
Says, in addition, would mean that my grandfather would lose the aid of my father, as he would now be a lord of his own keep, who has been doing all the finances of, well, all 3 castles, really. Grandfather is not particularly good at that, so if your gripe is with him, making him sit at home and do paperwork is perhaps one of the worst things you could do to him.
I'm sorry, but the image of Gormy at his desk
Yeah, that's a pretty
in
good
his
image.
lonely castle, just like
That is an
fucking
immensely
paperwork.
compelling argument.
Yeah, that is
Oh,
a
God
good
damn it.
argument. Decim is faltering. He's like,
Yeah.
damn, that's a good argument.
Might protect his blood pressure some, but on the other hand,
God, fuck, I'm
I
liking
doubt
this
you'll
young
get
Gormy.
much done at that point, as he gives you a smile.
I mean,
An alliance, a removal of a threat to both Tyrell. You'll be thankful, I imagine. Well, I'm counting on it, at least. Sort of smiles. Lord Gorman might be Lord of the Marshes, but he will have way too much work at home to really take any use in that title. And Tyrell will never no longer need to fear him. My father will... Well, he's a man who... He has a good sense for coin, and he will most likely send away some of the forces at White Grove, keeping only a thin garrison to save in wages so that he can develop the local quarrying. As myself, well, I have not yet thought of how I would rule. It seems a little early. He looks to Halen, gives him a smile. Halen looks to all of you, trying to perhaps guess your opinion of the plan.
I mean, out of character, that's a pretty good plan.
Yeah, out of character, I'm liking
on
this.
Lance's face, and in mine, this was what I was hoping he had planned. This
Yeah.
is so what I was hoping.
Bree doesn't look like she gets it.
Like, out of character, this makes the most sense, and this almost makes me want the house to vote for Gormy. Well,
No, we
not
don't
vote
want-
for him. If we don't want to vote for him
We can't-
because
and
then he
I will
fucks
slide
everything
out
up.
of character. Like ultimately, like this would go for the Tarley's benefit as well.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to
Yeah.
like clue them in on it at the time
No.
being. Just like all the votes go for Selby, and then Gormy's like, "Fuck,
Yep.
more votes! I win!" And then like at the end of it, Tarley's like, "All right, that son of a bitch Gormy. She's only got 1 castle. They're all weak
But-
and divided. I can conquer them later."
This also means that we have to get 2 extra votes, which he's
Unless-
laid out in front of us.
Decim leans forward a little bit and he says, that is an intriguing plan, I must agree. He thinks, but
Gorman
correct
gives you
me,
a beaming smile.
correct me if I am wrong, but in the event of a war, Lord Peak would be the Lord of the Marshes and would control all of us anyway.
No, it's just that is the law that the Lord of the Marshes would have to claim on his side. So looks at you and says, now, let us not speak of who picks whose side in potential wars. For should there come a war so big that the Lord of the Marshes will call upon you, I imagine it's one that will have 2 kings. That is ultimately what will decide the fate of whatever you are. If you pick the wrong one, doesn't matter who else you scorned.
Decim looks at it and says, yes. And I have a sneaking suspicion I know who Lord Peak would pick.
He shrugs. I have not spoken with him about that. He does not. Me and him does not entirely see eye to eye on many factors, many things. He is proud,
I'll be
good man, noble, strong,
you might
but-
not stop there.
but he has pride. He seems to sort of. Desmond's good enough to awareness that he sort of notices that Gore might have been about to say something like, comes with old age, but he sort of doesn't. Chose he's about to, and then sort of
Like
Realizes
the pride
that.
and satisfaction he shows in his plan.
Yeah, because he's so incredibly humble, right? Well,
I mean, it's
so
just like
okay. The thing is, I see here. Okay, so the thing is, this vote then, if it goes like he is saying, we seem destined to lose the vote anyway. We can't stop him from becoming Lord of the Marshes if he is prepared to actually split like this. We can
but
force him
crippling-
to split though.
yes, but forcing him to split would be amazing.
It would. The problem, I agree. That would be great. We still have the problem though with when the Blackfire shows up of Gomer being like, "Oh, all of you are now fighting for him."
That's I mean,
Yeah.
like, again, as it's noted, like if you pick the winning king, like it doesn't fucking
Yeah,
matter.
if there's a rebellion, you can pick pretty much any side and fuck off your liege lord. But so long as you are on the winning king's side, then no one's going to really argue.
If you side with the same person as Gormy Peak, basically, then there will be no issue. If you side with the other person and the other person wins, then there will be no issue.
It's only if we lose that there's a problem.
Yeah, and then generally that's a bad time.
Yeah.
Don't lose.
You know, this house picked the winning team once.
Once.
But,
Playing with house money.
Like I wouldn't consider that to be the concern, Jonas, so much as ensuring that the sell me vote can just get enough support to force Gorby to do this.
I know.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking. We can't really
So-
stop him. Right? So
Okay, what's young Gormy's proposition for us to gain these votes to force his grandfather into this?
But no, to be honest,
That might be a worthwhile question for you to ask, Halldamir.
Yeah,
equally, I had the same idea.
Yeah, Alaric will look to the young Peak and say, so, to get these extra votes to force your grandfather's hand into splitting up his castles, how do you propose we ascertain these votes?
As you said, one must be through marriage, but who are we going to? How are we going to arrange that?
Looks at the board. It says, well, I do not know what resources Caladan has available. So it looks around, says, for obvious reasons. But the key, sort of pokes the table, will be to secure the Peacebury vote. My grandfather will not have time to do this at the vote. If it seems to be going to a stalemate, he will likely do this anyway. Not as assuredly. He might have another plan, but if it seems like he might not win, says all that would need to be do would to be insinuate that perhaps one of his allies have turned his back on him in secret. Then he would not be able to risk going to the vote without securing the extra vote first. Says, how to secure the Peacebury vote, though? He leans back. I haven't the faintest clue. Lord Peacebury is is a man.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, my grandfather allegedly spoke to him and was not amused by the propositions that the man, well, as he would say, dared to put before him. It seems rather likely that Lord Peacebury knows his position here. Though to him it would seem larger, as to his mind he is the vote that can pick either side to win. So Luke says, how that is done, I do not know. Next to Halen says, Halen, however, says, good. Pious man. We spoke, perhaps, that he would go to, well, we would stay here for a little while, learn a little bit of the house, and then we would go north to Appleton, the knights, see if we can find one of them that might be suitable for the lady there. Maybe So looks to Palin as maybe religion is sort of an awkward thing to talk about between them, as they seem to have varying opinions on the matter. Maybe a bit of prayer will do some good. Maybe the Septon, who is who's responsible for keeping the young maiden, one such, will be impressed by the piety that is shown. It is an attempt, but, well, it would be in my best interest if we attempt as many places as possible. Even if it ends up with Selmy winning the vote, would be regrettable, but, Jenna shrugs. It is a secondary concern.
What do we know of Lord Peacebury, by the way?
Well, that would be a streetwise, or you could do a reputation sort of your status check.
Sure. Because I'm kind of curious. We need to work out what we're doing here.
As far as I know, all he wants before he dies is to sell his boys off.
Yeah, because they're incredibly ugly.
He's certainly known for being the father of the Gremlins.
Yeah.
He's known for being a man with an astute business sense, and he's known to to be also very opportunistic. He, for example, raised the prices when he learned that other houses had terrible harvests and that people would be buying food from him. He promptly raised the prices to barely prices that anyone has money to pay for, because people had to, and he has been lorded over almost his whole life, seemingly, by others. He is not a pretty man himself. He's not strong. He's not particularly. He's very sort of. He doesn't have a lot of height.
What you're saying is he's going to love the situation.
He is most likely going to enjoy the situation very much. From what the young Peak said, he probably propositioned. I mean, maybe even asked for Peak's daughter, for Peak's sort of his granddaughter's hand in marriage to his sons or some such, which of course Lord Peak would flat out feel insulted by. He is a man who, when things are bad, he has offered his sons for, basically take them, please anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably not something he enjoys doing. He's probably pretty sick and tired of it. And he's probably very happy that he has something that people want. Some call him the Toad.
Ooh.
It's not very flattering, and not as prevalent as the Gremlins.
Okay, that's a decent amount.
He's also very rich.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Incredibly
very
wealthy.
rich. If he wasn't really
Lots
wealthy,
of financial connections.
if he wasn't really wealthy, offering him wealth would have been something. But
He's the rich version of the Lannisters.
Yeah, basically. His peas are peasant food, and especially in winter he's rich because prices suddenly rose.
I don't think just offering him money is
Don't
going
want
to
to
be
pay?
enough.
Get starved.
No, money won't work. He would need to actually probably marry off one of his gremlins.
We don't have marriable candidates.
No, we don't, but we know of a house who might. Maybe we can get Ironwood in on this business.
I don't think Ironwood has any.
I don't think they have any girls left.
I think their last girl was Rosette.
Yeah.
Mm.
It says, but perhaps it would be possible. Speak to him. Maybe you'll like some groveling, but we can go and try to woo the Lady Hamilton. Not that it hadn't been tried before, but it's worth a try again, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It looks to Halen.
Halen's gonna woo Lady Appleton. That doesn't seem to be his strong suit.
Haley doesn't seem super amused, but
And he's
Well,
not me personally doing the marriage, so that would be quite amazing. That'd be
The
great for
Gorman
us having a house.
wants him to woo the Septon, who has been keeping the Lady Appleton well away from any
Oh,
men, really.
oh, I see.
Essentially use his piety as an open door to get someone in there.
That's pretty smart.
I mean, if
I
he
like
can
it.
do that, like
Halen doesn't
Just-
seem to be super amused by that plan, but he doesn't object to.
like out of character wise, perhaps she's looking for someone different. Alaric is very different, and he's been anointed by the Seven. Maybe he can also get in that
He's
way.
not amazingly
That's not a
pious, though.
reputation
He's not
for being.
amazingly
He,
pious,
more,
but,
more. He's like very mischievous. Like he's charming everything, right?
yeah.
Known for sleeping around heavily,
Exactly.
which is not very pious. Jim.
No.
The thing is, though, that
Maid will
as
blush.
far as I understood it, Halen said he wouldn't marry.
Yeah. I was.
He's not married.
Yeah, he's not marrying, but then
What he's saying is one of his knights will marry her. Hopefully. That's the idea here.
I don't particularly like the one of his knights idea per se.
Essentially was the idea, because otherwise, without anyone marrying, she gets no vote.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's worth a try.
The thought is also that generally, if she marries someone of actual noble rank, her house line will die out.
Oh,
While if
that's
she marries someone who is of like a knightly house, then the child will be of her house.
That's right.
But she holds superior.
Yeah.
Which means that knight is the optimal choice for her.
It is a terrible position to be in for her, really, because
It's always a terrible.
nobody has
position.
her best in mind.
It's always a terrible position for a woman in power like that.
And sadly, Alaric is not really the best candidate.
No, but I think we can get it. I think we still get this to work.
We could probably get it to it. I mean, he's still a knight. He's not exactly bound to the house. Alaric could fuck off right now and do his own thing in Highgarden and the Westerlands. So
We
he's
could
only here
offer
on
that
his own
also to
fruition.
the lady. She's like, you know what? He's not going to be around too much, honestly. Just marry him and we get this on with. And
Marry him, you get your
and
vote.
you,
Happy
yeah,
days.
you get your vote, you get your power. He's not going to really interfere. He's going to be
I mean,
off
the
in
point
Highgarden.
is she still probably actually wants kids because
Oh,
she
yeah,
can
we-
keep her line going.
Oh, I mean, he can do that,
Young,
right?
known
he
to
can
be
do
very pretty, and
You know,
she's
he
also
can-
known to be in a tower that's very tall. And sometimes she sings out the window.
Hey, Alaric has been proven
Yeah.
to be fertile.
Old Septon, an
So,
old
just
Maester, and a like Master of the Guard who all sworn to her old father that they would not allow her to marry any but the best, the most
Well-
pious, and
So Alaric,
I honestly think we could get it to work.
we need to up your reputation a little bit, but
Especially
So-
with Decim, like Decim and Lanus, maybe, and Halen swinging it with their words. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and then the new Lord Appleton just pretty much I don't give a fuck about anything.
but that's what we want. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's-
Allowing her to
I think
continue
it
to be
worked.
dominated by a scary maester and creepy spy master. Like, that's never happened before anywhere.
It happens all the
surely
time.
she
Caladan.
wants to be in the tower.
I mean, at least you won't be in the tower anymore, right?
Yeah, she can come out. Hey, she can travel the world with Alaric.
Yeah, that'd be great.
House
Yeah,
Caladan can.
I'm sure the creepy maester and spy master would love for there to be no nobility to oversee them.
Well, we could send darling Nalia to look over the books, like watch over the books.
We will
can't
steward
we?
them.
We'll
Yes,
steward them.
Steward.
Well,
Yeah,
she
yeah,
spends
send it
time with her
entirely different.
darling
You are-
husband.
You are doing a horrible job of selling this.
What Struckens is, we'll take a look at what's going on there. If something seems to be possible, I mean, so much the better. High hopes for Peaceberry, but as it turns out, I'm not a lord. I don't have anything to deal with, and I would prefer to accompany Palin.
Honestly, one of the things I'm seeing here is I think we need Desmond. If anyone, on one hand, it might be groveling you though, and I don't think Desmond could do groveling.
He's not great
I
at
think
groveling,
It's,
but
The point is, for Lord Peaceberry, we need someone who's good at talking for that. Most certainly.
Oh, and I immediately know what Lord Peaceberry is going to say. Oh, you need something from me with all this money and peace. Now, what could I possibly want with all of my great wealth and fortune? You know, I've been trying to marry off my kids for like a decade now.
Hey, Bree!
No one's really been that fucking interested. That's exactly where that conversation goes.
Oh yeah, it would go directly there. We might as well look for other options.
Well, we need someone
Bree's a
to
hot
marry him
commodity in
after.
the sense of
Bree.
she's being a girl. So.
Bree, bad news. I have good news.
Bad and
Bad
good.
news is that Decim is going to have to burn his final destiny point.
Yeah, no, Bree is not. She's not marriageable either. Like
Yeah, that's the problem.
she's not there yet. So I don't know. Straight up, I
You
don't
can
know.
make a
we need to-
betrothal and then break it.